to the First Team Fantasy Podcast. We have myself and Schiff here, as always, coming into Week 6, kicking it off with our London game, the Jaguars at the Bears. The Jaguars are now favored by 1. The over-under is 44.5. A couple quick injuries on the Jaguars side of the ball. You have Gabe Davis, who is questionable with a knee injury, and Evan Ingram, still dealing with that hamstring injury, expects to play in this one, but he is still listed as questionable. On the Jaguars side of the ball, I don't love starting Trevor Lawrence in this one. We know that the Bears have a formidable secondary. And from what we've seen from Trevor Lawrence, we've seen a couple good weeks, but he is currently sitting as the QB 19. So outside of this past week against the Colts, his best performance was 14.7 fantasy points. If I have other options, I am looking there. Travis Etienne was removed from the injury report with that shoulder injury, so he seems like he is good to go in this one. Tank Bigsby has been running the ball well. But again, where we drafted ETN, I think he's someone we have to keep in our lineup. It's just hard to justify taking him out, especially with some of the buys we're dealing with this week. Tank Bigsby, I think, will be involved in this one, but I think it's another one of those cases where, he can break a big run, and if he gets it done that way and possibly gets in the end zone, he could have a solid week. But he's also only been targeted and caught one pass on the entire season so far. So he's not going to be too involved in the pass game. I think he was a great pickup for if ETN missed this game, but since ETN is playing, I'm going to leave Tank on the sideline, at least until I see, more proof that he is going to be playing, 35, 40% of the snaps and getting 10 plus carries potentially a game. The pass catchers, I do like playing Brian Thomas, obviously. And Christian Kirk, he had those first 2 weeks where he had 4.9 combined through the first two, and he's gone over double digits each week since. They found ways to get him involved. I don't mind the Christian Kirk start, especially with all of the buys. I am curious to see with Evan Ingram being back in this lineup, how this week will go. If you've found a solid replacement for Ingram that has been decently consistent for you, I say stay there for this week. I want to see if Evan Ingram's healthy, how much he plays, if he doesn't re-aggravate the injury, and his involvement in this game. I am excited for Evan Ingram going forward, but I honestly, again, if you don't have to force him into the lineup this week, I'm not going out of my way to do so.
Yeah. Just definitely keep an eye on that Evan Ingram status. It's going to be tough, especially since they're playing at 6:30 in the morning. So,
Yeah.
that's one, if you honestly know yourself and know that you're not going to wake up that early to change your lineup, if Evan Ingram's ruled out, just leave him out.
Yeah.
Honestly, just leave him out. But going to the other side of the ball, I think honestly Caleb Williams is a decent streaming option this week. I'm 0 for 1 on the Brock Purdy call. I thought that Geno would outperform him this week. That did not happen. Um, Purdy had a great game. We'll cover
Yeah.
that later, but I really do think that Caleb Williams is due for a really good game against the Jags. He carved up the Panthers last week, which, yeah, that's an easy feat, but the Jags defense hasn't been too much better. So
Yeah.
I'm really confident and really hopeful this week for the Bears offense. Right now, I'd like to say that, all their guys are healthy and on the field. So I don't mind. I'm definitely starting DJ Moore. DeAndre Swift at this point, it's you can't really take him out of your lineup. He
Mm-hmm.
is getting more and more involved in this offense. So I'm staying in the flames with him, especially going up against a bad defense. And Roma Dunze and Keenan Allen, I believe I like Rome Odunze a little bit better, but I believe they're both fine flex options this week. And then Cole Kmet, I mean, you know, as we say, in this economy, there
Yeah.
you got to take what you can get. So I mean, he's on the field a lot. Hopefully, with all three of the Chicago pass catchers healthy, it won't cause him to disappear. But the one thing that I do worry about in this game is the Chicago defense being too much for the Jags offense, and they don't really have to do anything.
Yeah.
So in that case, it could get ugly. But if the Jags could keep it close, then I believe it should be a good day for the Chicago fantasy players.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. So you'd start Chicago defense in this one? Reason I asked, they're the number 4 defense on the season so far.
I would. Jacksonville has shown in games not against the Colts or Texans that they've had a lot of trouble moving the ball, and it's just tough.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, I think I'd roll with the Bears defense, especially like Chiefs defense is on bye this week, so that might have been one that you were,
The
and the
Vikings.
Vikings as well. Yeah, so either one of those. Yeah, I don't mind it at all.
Yeah.
But honestly, with our next one, I I can keep this really short and sweet. So our next game is the Cleveland Browns at the Philadelphia Eagles. The over under in this one's 42 and a half. The Eagles are favored by 8.5 points. I mean, I think Amari Cooper is a good start. Um,
Yeah. No
I
Jerome
mean,
Ford or Njoku.
Njoku's been removed from the injury report as of 14 hours ago. Um, I, I don't hate the Njoku start, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Deshaun has not looked good at all. Um, I think I like Amari. If you want to start Njoku, I mean, you don't have Kelsey this week. There's other guys you might not have. I mean, let's see. He's rostered in 67% of leagues. If you had him, there's a likelihood you didn't drop him. He's available in our league, but that's neither here nor there. I don't hate it, but it's just tough
Yeah.
off injury. Eagles are coming off bye, so they're going to be a bit healthier. Um, you could. Jerome Ford, I don't know. It's just been kind of weird in that backfield.
Yeah.
And
He doesn't carry it. Like, I think the only saving grace for like a Jerome Ford or Njoku is, like you said, the Eagles are healthy. They're coming off bye. They're at home, and they've been struggling a little bit. So it's like if the Eagles throw that first punch and it's a knockout punch, the Browns should be in a position where they're passing the ball a lot. And they haven't done it efficiently. That's the whole thing, is Deshaun hasn't been efficient. But at least
yeah,
it should be, the game script should favor potential passes for the Browns. So that's the only upside, I guess you could say, to like an Njoku or a Jerome Ford out the backfield. But I agree. That offense hasn't given us very much to be excited for.
no, the Deshaun problem is a real thing. So it's just tough to have any kind of real faith. But I do think Amari's a good start this week, just due to the fact that the Eagles secondary has been struggling. And it's, kind of like I said with Garrett Wilson last week, when a player, I mean, I think he has like the fourth most targets in the NFL right now. And I think this is a week for it to come through. I don't even necessarily think the Browns will come close in this game, but whatever production they have, I feel like will come from Amari Cooper.
Yeah, nah. I absolutely agree with you. And yeah, the Eagles side of the ball, they are just about fully healthy with their weapons. AJ Brown and Devonta Smith are both back. So obviously we're starting Jalen Hurts, Saquon, AJ, Devonta, and Godare. I don't mind the start from him, but you saw the first 2 weeks where he got 5 targets in four, and then he became kind of the guy where he got 11 targets and 8 targets and just exploded. But I don't. I think we're going to see more of what we saw in week 1 and 2 from Godare, especially if they are able to dominate this game and go up early. They're not going to have to pass it too much. Godare, I think he's a fine start, but again, temper your expectations. It's going to be more so of the first 2 weeks than the latter two. Jake Elliott is the number 32 ranked kicker right now. And mainly it's been, again, we'll mainly look at the first 2 weeks. He got 10 points and seven. I think Jake Elliott's a fine play in this one. There should be plenty of scoring opportunities. The Eagles' defense, I don't love starting. I think they have a favorable matchup, but they don't necessarily. They haven't got after the quarterback too much. They've only forced one fumble. They have 2 interceptions. I don't know. I still think even with some of the defenses on bye week, I think there are better options. But again, if you don't have one, I do like the matchup. So I don't completely hate it, but I think there's better out there. Our next,
Yeah, just the combination of the Browns' offensive line and Deshaun Watson have been so bad. It's like worth
yeah,
taking a look at.
yeah, for sure. And our next game is one of, I mean, to be fair, it's one of the greatest rivalries in football. It should disappoint a little bit in this one, I would assume.
And there are rivalries within rivalries in this
Yeah,
game.
no, exactly.
And yes, Marshawn Lattimore will be playing.
Yeah, it's the Bucks at the Saints. The Bucks are favored by 3.5. The over under is 42. I'm gonna stake the flag right now. Play Baker Mayfield. I don't care. I don't care what the matchup is. I don't care that Mike Evans historically doesn't do the greatest against the Saints. Him and Marshawn Lattimore have this ongoing thing. Baker Mayfield is the quarterback 3. He only has one bad week against Denver. Outside of that, he's been 20 points and above. He's got 2 weeks dang near at 30. Rashad White is he's doubtful. He's more than likely going to miss this one. Obviously, they don't run the ball well anyways, but they're going to be passing the ball. I'm rolling Baker Mayfield. Do not leave him on your bench in this one. It's just, if he burns you, he burns you, but he's consistently proven us that he should be starting. So put him there. I'm interested for Bucky Irving. He should get a full workload in this one. I do like the Bucky Irving start, especially with some of, the Saints are a little shorthanded on their side in some important positions. So the Bucks should be in a favorable game
Namely
script.
one.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you'll cover it when we get there. But the reason it's such a big deal is who that is playing. It's not like they're rolling out a Joe Flacco or a Jameis, a guy that's had success in the NFL or can be somewhat trusted. So I do like Bucky. Obviously, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans get the start. And Cade Otton, I don't hate it. The tight end landscape is so funny. Week 3, Cade Otton gets 9.7 fantasy points. He was the tight end 7. Week 5, he gets 7.4. He was the tight end 24. So which tight end group is going to show up week in, week out? We don't know. Cade Otton's been solid. He's gotten us at least 7 or above the past 3 weeks. If you have to roll him, I don't absolutely hate it. I do think there's better options, but wouldn't blame you. And then obviously, Chase McLaughlin, we have to roll. And honestly, yeah, the Bucks defense, I don't completely mind in this one either.
No, I mean, they're going to be playing against Spencer Rattler in his first start for the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
Who got the nod over Jake Haener. Start Alvin Kamara.
Did you hear what Rattler said about Chris Olave?
It is his first start in the NFL in a grudge match. These teams hate each other. I honestly would rather. It's They're going to be trying to kill him on that field. Like, I just don't see anybody outside of Alvin Kamara having remote success. And
Yeah,
I could be so very wrong. I really could be. But I mean, I don't think if you have Chris Olave, I think you can, like, yes, Spencer Rattler said he's going to find ways to get the ball to Chris Olave because he's different. If
that is exactly what he said. Like, I mean, what else is he supposed to say, though? You know, like, of course he said that.
Yes, and I mean I completely agree with him. You got to find ways to get that man the ball. Is he talented enough to do that at this level? It's our
Who
first time
knows?
seeing it.
Yeah,
So we're due to find out. One thing you might be in for is a whole bunch of targets for Chris Olave. That is a definite possibility. I don't know if they'll be the best targets,
yeah,
but I think he'll get a bunch. And if he could turn those into something, I just really think, I mean, Alvin Kamara is going to get a lot of targets close to the line of scrimmage. Um, Same as we've seen from him before. And he's probably, I don't see him having the most efficient day because they know what the Saints are kind of going to have to do. But other than that, I mean, if you want to chance it with Juwan Johnson, I think he's going to be,
yeah,
it's a rookie quarterback, more short area targets. He could end up with like 6 or 7 targets in this game.
yeah. You could. And Taysom Hill's out in this one
Taysom
also
Hill
with
is
that rib
out.
injury. So
It's just rough. I mean, week 6, we're seeing a rookie for the first time at all in real NFL action. So we don't really have anything to gauge it off of because we've seen quarterbacks, i.e., Kenny Pickett, look great in the preseason, and then game time comes
yeah,
and everything changes. So
this is like a fifth round
um,
quarterback too. You know, it's not like Drake May getting his first start. It's like
no, exactly. It's
so.
I don't know. It's possible, but I'm not willing to bank on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think I'm just really rolling Kamara, and then I really don't. Obviously, you have Olave. You're putting him in there. I don't mind it. It just could be very rough.
Yeah,
He could end up like 4 for 13 for like 48 yards.
yeah. No,
You just
I
don't
agree
know
with
how
that.
good the target's going to be. But going into and then no, I wouldn't start Blake Grupe in this one. Or I don't think the Saints defense either.
No.
Going into our next game, though, we have the Cardinals going into Lambeau to take on the Packers, where Green Bay is favored by 5.5, which is pretty fair. Um, Honestly, I think I'd like to hope, rather, that this game lives up to the over/under. I
Mm-hmm.
think both of these teams, as we've seen, have a lot of high scoring potential. I think with Arizona, it's Kyler Murray, James Conner, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Trey McBride.
Yeah.
We've talked about Michael Wilson before. If you'd like to take the dart throw in like a deeper league, or if your team is riddled not only by bye weeks but by injuries as well, I wouldn't hate the Michael Wilson start. He's been involved. He has like a 70% catch rate.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting most of his targets. So I mean, I don't mind that at all. But anything beyond that,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you're. desperate, you could go Dortch, but I just personally wouldn't.
Yeah. And it's not happening this week, but Zay Jones is very close to returning. I'm curious to see where he'll fit into that wide receiver room. I think it'll be a lot of Greg Dortch's opportunities, but I am curious for that.
Yeah.
The Packers side of the ball is, I mean, we have the guys we're rolling. Jordan Love, he gets a start. Obviously, Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed. Luke Musgrave is now on the IR with that ankle injury. I know he really wasn't even really biting into Tucker Craft at all, but just to add the icing to the Tucker Craft cake, he no longer even has that competition. So Tucker Craft's an obvious start. I'm hesitant on Dontavion Wicks this week, mainly because Romeo Dobbs comes back. They're trying to make it all kumbaya, everything's good. I assume they're going to get the ball to Romeo Dobbs in this one to kind of appease him. So, I mean, I don't know. Dontavion Wicks, I was really hoping for a big week last week, and it did not come. As we've seen, like just like week 4 and week 5, when they were shorthanded, he did see 7 targets. He only caught 2. One thing about Wicks is the execution behind the targets have not been there completely. He can pull off big plays, but a lot of the time it does not happen. So I'm hesitant on him. I don't think we can start Romeo Dobbs. I don't know. He's out there so much, but he's never really been that guy for that offense. And especially Christian Watson, he's questionable. That's something to heavily monitor too. If he plays, it becomes more muddled. If he does not play, I think Wicks and Dobbs get a slight bump there. Especially if the Arizona offense is keeping up and this is a high-powering game, then, Dobbs or Wicks, we can like a little more. I'm just hesitant to play either of them, especially if Watson does play in this one. It's shown to be Jaden Reed and Tucker Craft as the main two.
Yeah. I mean, the 7 targets were encouraging for Wicks last week, but obviously the 2 catches you'd like to see better. It didn't really seem like him and Love were on the same page,
Yeah.
but Love honestly hasn't, if you watch, played the best football over the past couple weeks.
Oh, I agree.
He's put together some good fantasy performances, but I mean, I think if he cleans his, game up a little bit as well, then, but at this point it is hard to kind of gauge where everybody falls in line. They're all
Yeah.
really young receivers, all really talented. I honestly think if you have one of these guys, just probably hold on to him and see how things shake out towards the end of, because I mean, regardless of who is like the number 2 guy right now, like whoever the you're gonna want whoever's like the Darnell Mooney in Green Bay at the end of the season.
Yep.
So you're not gonna know who it is right now. It's hard to figure out, and I mean, it might be different every game,
That's
and
the
it never
tough
gets
part.
solidified.
Yeah.
It's another thing too. And at a certain point, I think it's okay to make a judgment call. And if it stays like so inconsistent, like not like the Niners, like, one game it's Ayuk and then one
Yeah.
game it's Debo, and although Ayuk's been a little, but if it's just too hard to predict, then it's okay to like let go. But if we see some kind of consistency throughout the rest of the season, then I think it's worth holding on to these guys just for that.
Yeah. And gosh, our next game is due. I think this next game is going to be decently ugly. It's the Colts at the Titans, a divisional matchup. The over-under is 43. Tennessee's favored by 3 at home, so it's basically a coin flip on who Vegas thinks is going to win this one. Anthony Richardson is questionable. He was limited on Friday. He has that oblique injury. I mean, it it's tough because if it's Anthony Richardson, I would like to think the pass catchers take a bit of a hit. And if it's Joe Flacco, they get a bit of a bump. But also, Jonathan Taylor is out in this one. So it's not like they're going to be able to rely on Jonathan Taylor to get it done on the ground. So you're going to see more Trey Sermon. You're going to see Tyler Goodson getting some passes out of the backfield. I'm not crazy confident in Trey Sermon, at least efficiency wise, but he did get it done. I mean, he only got 10 attempts for 38 yards, but he did get in the end zone. He caught 6 passes. So I don't mind starting Trey Sermon if we have to, especially if you had Jonathan Taylor. So, I mean, you have to do what you have to do there. Michael Pittman is playing through, who is on Shift's fantasy team, and I'm sure it was a roller coaster of emotions where they said he's going to miss multiple weeks. Avoid IR, but multiple weeks he'll be out. Oh, never mind. The next day. He fully participates in practice on Friday, and he's going to play through it.
Yeah.
It just. And again.
The worst part is Tennessee's defense isn't sneaky good. They are currently giving up the least amount of yards per game in the NFL. And I believe they are the number one pass defense in the NFL against fantasy wide receivers at the very least. So
Yeah. And that's the tough part is, Richardson and Pittman hadn't really connected. They got a couple decent passes in that Pittsburgh game before Richardson went down. And then he kind of exploded after that. So it's just tough. If you'd made a game plan to sit Pittman, I would stick to it this week, at least. To one, it's a really good defense they're playing. And two, I want to see how healthy he really is out there. Because talking before the episode, Schiff brought up, a T. Higgins, where they said he's going to play. He played a single snap and went out. If Pittman's really banged up like that, where they thought he was going to miss multiple weeks, a decent hit and potentially he will miss multiple weeks. So it's just a big risk to take. Josh Downs has been really good since he came back. He's expected to play. He's questionable with that toe injury. He did get a full practice on Friday. He's been really good as well. Again, just temper expectations if it is Anthony Richardson. We've seen his inability to pass the ball efficiently. I mean, 2 of the 3 games he played the entire game, he had 9 completions and 10 completions. And a majority of those yards were to Alec Pierce. So it's tough. I'm staying away from the Colts offense as a whole if I can. But again, like a Trey Sermon, I think he can be decent in this one. I don't know how this game is going to go. I think the Colts defense isn't the greatest. So if the Titans can go up, the Colts are going to have to pass the ball. I'd feel endlessly more comfortable with the pass catchers if it was Joe Flacco at this point. Crazy enough to say.
Yeah, I mean, it is and it isn't. You look at, it's what we talk about with Anthony Richardson. The number of games he has played is just so small. And then you look at Joe Flacco. I mean, he's led a team to a Super Bowl before. He came back, had a resurgence, led the Browns to the playoff. He's got the know-how and he sees things well before Anthony Richardson could. And it's in the experience. But you would like to see a little bit more and a little bit sooner from Richardson, especially.
It's funny they brought in Flacco. Like, I get it because Richardson gets injured. Like, he has high risk for injury. So, you want a good backup. Their play styles are polar opposites. Anthony Richardson has no backup in that room, no backup vet to teach him how to play how he wants to play football. There's no Josh Johnson. No. There's no Huntley. There's no it's Sam Ellinger and Flacco.
Joe Flacco was Lamar's vet too.
It just, you know what I mean?
Sometimes things just work out that way.
Yeah.
But he was probably just the best available backup quarterback.
For sure.
And going over to the Titans side of the ball, though, it's a bit odd because the Colts are currently giving up 419.2 yards per game total, obviously. And it's just a funny matchup because the Titans are 31st in turnover differential at -7.
Mm-hmm.
They only pass for 145 yards a game,
Yep.
while the Colts are giving up everything. All signs point to a good Tony Pollard game for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think he will honestly have a great game. I think that Calvin Ridley should be a good start.
Yeah. Gosh, it's scary though.
I
It's so scary.
think
But yeah,
Calvin Ridley should come through.
I agree.
I'm gonna if I have Calvin Ridley anywhere, I'm rolling him. Obviously DeAndre Hopkins is a bit tougher. Eh, he's a full participation in practice. I mean,
His involvement has not gone up though. Like he was playing through that injury. He's played 27%, 44, 46, and then 32.
yeah, I mean he was a full participation in practice was his last, and no designation on this injury report. We'll see. The Colts are giving up a lot. One thing that Will Levis can do is just sling the ball.
Yeah.
So I mean, in the off chance, and the Colts defense is bad enough that if you need to start DeAndre Hopkins, if you need to,
Yeah.
then I think it'll be okay. Otherwise, yeah, you can leave him on the bench. But Tony Pollard and um,
Calvin.
definitely Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Those are my only two like locks.
Yeah. How do you uh,
Maybe the Titans defense.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, if they're 27th fantasy wise. Again, this is a very I'd like to think favorable matchup in this one. They did do solid against the Dolphins, but there might be better out there.
There should be. It's just not a horrible option.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um, but that'll take us right into our next one, which should be interesting. I know the score isn't projected to be, but we'll see. The Houston Texans are going into New England to take on the Patriots,
Mm-hmm.
and the over-under is 37.5. So Vegas is really confident in this one. Kayvon Thibodeau is just placed on injured reserve. And Houston is favored by 6.5 points. That is actually pretty big for Sunday night for Zach Moss and Chase Brown.
Yeah.
But back to the Texans and Patriots game. Well, Nico Collins was currently the #1 wide receiver in football.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna see what a whole game of no Nico Collins looks like against the pretty stout defense. Um,
Yeah.
I think if Joe Mixon plays, then you play him. I think Stephon Diggs is a good play, and
It's time for him. It has to be, right? This has to be it.
I don't think you have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Um, it's just tough because his involvement has. You're just start Tank Dell this week, and then if you get burned again, he's got to go to the bench until something picks up. But
For sure.
I mean, it's just hard to say that he won't get extra targets with Nico gone. I mean, he was the clear-cut #1 option, so how exactly that divides up among Diggs and um, I
Indell
just,
and Schultz, to be fair.
I mean, Schultz, I just don't see taking too much of a cut out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, between Dell and Diggs, we'll see how it really divides up. And then Fairbairn has been great. I don't see why you would take him out now. And how do you feel about the Houston defense?
I actually feel good. I feel really good in this one. The Patriots offense hasn't shown us too much. It is Drake May's first start. But again, it's Drake May's first start against a Houston team that has been performing pretty well.
Yeah.
How do I always get stuck with the Patriots? We even we randomized the order and I somehow get the Patriots again.
Yeah, no, I literally tailored this order so that I would get the Ravens and you would get the Raiders like naturally in the flow of, and as I was going along, I was like, huh.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. I'm sure you were. And normally when I cover the Patriots, I'm always like, one guy we're really looking at is Mondre. How we feel about the Mondre matchup, this and that. Mondre's out with a foot injury. The one guy I had hope for to start.
So now you're starting Gibson.
I don't know. I really just don't know. Gibson, I mean, if there was going to be someone on the Patriots offense I was going to start, it is Gibson. I do like Gibson the most. I think he's going to get a lot of run with Mondre out. They're showing Jermichael Hasty will get a little bit of run as the backup to Gibson. I don't think Gibson's going to be crazy efficient on the ground. I do think he'll probably get, if I had to guess, like 10 to 12 carries. But I think he can get, 3, 4, maybe 5 catches out of the backfield, what he does with those, potentially more. It's a rookie quarterback now starting, and none of the weapons through the air necessarily strike fear in this Houston defense. So I do think Gibson will be involved. I don't mind the Gibson start if you have to make it. But outside of that, it's the same old story with these guys. There's just so many names in the wide receiver room. Hunter Henry is not. He's not him. He had the one solid week. Outside of that, he hasn't been good. It's just tough. I honestly, I think the Texans dominate this one. And another fear I would have for the Houston side of the ball is if they go up early, how much are they really going to have to keep passing? That's the only thing. I really don't think this Patriots offense is going to be able to do too much. But Drake May was very highly drafted, and I am excited to see him out there. And at the very least, I'm hopeful he can pass for more than the 130 yards a game Jacoby was averaging. So Jacoby threw 2 touchdowns and 1 interception in 5 games. 1 interception. If your offense is sputtering that hard, you didn't even try to force things in there and throw a pick. It's like you're down. You had to try something. No, they didn't even do that. They were just like, we'll just go down. I digress on it.
Losing conservatively.
I know. What are we doing? And the polar opposite of that one, I would say one of the games of the week, at least the game of the week for the morning slate, is going to be the Commanders at the Ravens. This Commanders offense has looked very electric. The Ravens defense at times, especially through the air, has looked a little bit
anemic.
Yeah, they have not looked the greatest. And I'm curious, Jaden Daniels obviously gets the start. He has been absolutely incredible. He's currently the number 2 fantasy quarterback, and I, without checking, would say he's playing against the number 1 fantasy quarterback. So it should be sparks flying. Someone that's going to be missing out on this one, and it's a big hit to this Commander offense, is Brian Robinson. He is out with that knee injury. I'm absolutely starting Eckler in this one. I don't think he's going to have the greatest day on the ground, but he's going to be catching passes out of the backfield. We'll see Jeremy McNichols serving as the backup for him. I think Scary Terry, we just have to start in this one. I can't confidently tell you to start Noah Brown, McCaffrey, Diami. I just cannot do that to you. In Zach Ertz, again, He is old reliable. He had a down week this past week where he saw the most targets he's seen on the season. I'd like to say Zach Ertz can get a couple catches. Again, he's not going to win you the week, but hopefully he can give you a 7 to 10 point outcome. He's one of those. I want to circle back quickly. Like, if you have an Evan Ingram, if you have a David Njoku, especially David Njoku, I'd rather start him than Zach Ertz. But like an Evan Ingram, if you want to wait one more week and see how it plays out, I don't mind leaving Zach Ertz in. But that's it. I'm not forcing him into the lineup either. And, the kicker, you want to throw him out there, go ahead. And I think the Commanders' defense... No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not playing the Commanders' defense. That's it for that side of the ball.
Well, on the Ravens side, I think I can keep it short and sweet. Start Lamar, start Derrick Henry. I think Zay Flowers should be a good start. Everything else is fairly speculative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that is what we're here for, but I can't sit here in confidence and tell you to start a Ravens tight end. If any of them, I'd likely the most of all. He seems to have the most consistent involvement at the very least. I don't think he's goosed yet.
No, he got close against Dallas, but he didn't.
He got close, but he hasn't goosed yet,
Yeah.
which is what we've seen Mark Andrews do
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
So, I think Tucker, and that's really
You stay away from the
maybe
Ravens
Justice Hill.
defense. Yeah, I can see Justice Hill. I can see that.
Ravens defense, nah, not this week.
Yeah.
They do well against rookie quarterbacks. I just.
It's almost a little. There's some good matchups. Like, just quickly looking at like some defenses available in our home league. You still have the Chargers at Denver. You have the Falcons at Carolina. There's other options out there that seem more favorable than this one.
And it's very hard to play a defense in a game where the over/under is 51.5.
Yeah. Did I not mention that? Did I not mention that the Ravens were favored by 7 in the over? I don't think I did. But the Ravens are favored by 7 at home. And yeah, the over-under is 51.5. So it's should be a very good one.
Yeah, should definitely get me close to a heart attack, like the Ravens tend to do more weeks than not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is all for our morning games. We're going to take a quick break, come back with the rest of the games for Sunday and Monday. And Derek, you got anything else to add?
No, we're good. Let's roll forward.
All right. Well, as you guys know, come back next time. Take more reps with the first team.
Yes, sir.